do is make our sauce that we're going to cook in with our chicken. So we want to add about a teaspoon or so of just plain sugar. We want to add about 2.5 tablespoons of cornstarch, just regular old cornstarch that you buy in the grocery stores. We're going to add about 2 tablespoons of water. Let me just kind of eyeball this. Add just a couple of spoons of water. I'm going to add a product that we've used before, hoisin sauce, which is kind of like a Chinese barbecue sauce. It's a deep, rich, thick, wonderfully flavored sauce. We need about, this is not exact science here, a couple of tablespoons or so of the hoisin sauce, which is delicious. Then we're going to add something that we haven't used before on this show, but you can buy it in any grocery store out there in the section where they sell the Asian things, you know, where you go to buy your water chestnuts and your soy sauces and things like that. We're going to be using a product called oyster sauce. And oyster sauce is just very commonly used in Asian cooking. And we want, again, about, let me get a different spoon. I don't want to mix my flavors. About 2 tablespoons. It's just smells divine, and it doesn't smell like oysters. I know that's what you're thinking at home. We want about 2.5 tablespoons or so of the oyster sauce. It's a deep fermented soybean type product, and it is scrumptious. 1 can of that or 1 jar of that will last you a long time. You can just put it in your refrigerator, and it'll stay good forever. So we want to add that. We want to add a couple of tablespoons of the seasoned rice wine vinegar that we have used before on this program. A couple of tablespoons of that. If you have the unseasoned kind, that's fine too. You don't have to go out and buy a different bottle. We want to add some soy sauce, a couple of teaspoons, or tablespoons, excuse me, of just soy sauce. Now, I use low sodium soy sauce because I just watch my, salt intake. Want to kind of stir that together a little bit, and we're going to add another ingredient. Let's kind of get that going, which is delicious, and that is the dark roasted sesame oil. Do not make the mistake and go to the section where you get the canola oil, vegetable oil, peanut oils, the cooking oils. They sell a product there called sesame oil. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the dark roasted pure sesame oil that you get in the Asian section of your grocery store. Oh, this is delicious over just steamed rice. Just pour a little bit of this oil. I use this stuff all the time. It's very potent. You only need about a teaspoon of the dark sesame oil, but it is delicious, and it smells so good. And I use this in a lot of different recipes. Stir that together. And this is going to be a sauce that we're going to add to the chicken after we cook it. We want to kind of stir up that cornstarch in there and just let that dissolve. Now, the cornstarch, of course, will kind of do 2 things. It will coat the chicken a little bit, and it will also help to thicken up the sauce, the glaze that we're going to be putting in with the chicken. And you need to just kind of make sure that you get that cornstarch dissolved. That's the wonderful thing about cornstarch, and that's why we use cornstarch instead of flour, because flour tends to lump up. You know what I'm talking about? Where cornstarch will not. When you get it dissolved in your liquid products, it's good to go, and it will not kind of lump up on you like some flour will do. So that looks good. Smells divine. That sesame oil is what gives it that wonderful flavor, that dark, rich Asian flavor. This is a recipe that is kind of inspired by a very famous restaurant that has got just the most delicious food. And I ate there, and I thought, okay, I have to do this at home. I absolutely have to do this at home, and because I don't live anywhere near that restaurant. To my bowl, I'm going to add a couple more tablespoons of the rice vinegar and a couple more tablespoons of soy sauce. Because I'm going to soak my chicken in here for just a minute. A couple tablespoons of water, or a couple teaspoons rather. I'm going to add a little bit more of the sesame oil just because I like it. I just think it just adds such a flavor to the food that is unbeatable. And then I'm going to add, I like hot. If you don't like it as spicy as I do, don't add as much, but to add a little bit of heat, You know, you could use different forms. You could use sriracha sauce, you could use chili oil, you could use a lot of different things. I happen to always have in my pantry crushed red pepper flakes, so that's what I'm using today. And I'm adding a whole tablespoon of them because I like my food hot. If you don't like it as spicy as I do, just decrease the amount of the red pepper flakes. You really, you know, you could leave them out if you really wanted to. And then just kind of stir that together. Set that aside for just a minute. Now, I'm going to add, now traditionally, you know, all the research that I've done has pointed to dried shiitake mushrooms. I have a hard time finding those except in an Asian store. So what I bought today were the baby bellas, which are baby portobello mushrooms. We're going to use about half a package. This is a 10-ounce package, so I'm going to use about half of that, about 5 ounces or so of the baby bella mushrooms. Now, baby portobellos, of course, portobellos are the big mushrooms that a lot of people substitute for meat. I'm going to chop these up very, very fine because I want them chopped fine. A lot of people, myself included, now I'll tell you a little secret here on myself. I'm not a mushroom fan. I don't particularly care if it's not the taste, it's the texture. But in this recipe, even your non-mushroom eaters like me will absolutely go crazy over this dish because it just has got such wonderful flavors and textures. And we're going to chop these mushrooms so fine. By the time I'm done, let me get a little bit bigger knife. The shorter knife here is not working too well. I got a big one too here, so let's use him. By the time you chop these up as fine as I'm going to chop them, you'll never even know. You know, your mushroom eaters, your non-mushroom eaters will not even know that they're in there. But the flavor of the mushrooms just adds a depth and earthiness, a meatiness that you miss if you don't have it in there. So we're going to add about, like I said, about 5 ounces or so. I'm using the baby portobellos. If you can find the shiitakes, absolutely use shiitakes. If you get the dried shiitakes, reconstitute them in some boiling water for about 30 minutes. But I'm just going to use the baby portobellos. You could probably use any mushroom that you like. Maybe you like the little button mushrooms. You could use those too. But shiitakes, from mushroom lovers, I have learned, have got a real deep, rich, earthy flavor. I'm going to take a quick break. I'm just going to keep chopping up these mushrooms. And when I come back, we're going to start on the chicken, and then we're going to cook this wonderful chicken lettuce wrap. I'll be right back with you in just a minute. Hey, and welcome back. Now, over the break, I just added the mushrooms to our second sauce that we made, and I just chopped up a little bit of chicken, and we're just going to finish this chicken breast. This is 4 boneless, skinless chicken breasts that I bought at the grocery store. We just want to chop it fine. I sliced it, and I'm going to turn it the other direction and just kind of cube it up a little bit, just to kind of get it in smaller pieces. You see here how we're cutting it. We just want it to be small enough to put in our lettuce when we're ready to eat. It will be absolutely delicious. I can't wait. So let's add that to our sauce. And we're just going to kind of stir that up a little bit. Just let that hang out. We're going to preheat a skillet, a large skillet, to medium-high heat. And we're going to just cook this chicken. Going to be delicious. All right, now we're going to add in a large skillet that I've got preheated to medium-high heat. For today, we're going to be using peanut oil because that's a traditional, method of cooking Chinese food. But if you don't have any peanut oil, you can use canola oil. I would not use vegetable oil because it really, not vegetable oil, olive oil. You could use vegetable oil or canola oil. The olive oil would add too much flavor to it, but the peanut oil is a traditional cooking oil with Chinese food. We want to add our chicken to our dish. And that's a lot of chicken. That's okay. It's going to be delicious. I'm going to crank that heat up a little bit hotter. And I'm going to stir fry that up. Now, on my board, while we're waiting on that, I have got just one little small can of sliced water chestnuts that I diced up, you know, to be a little finer. I've got a couple of cloves of garlic that I just diced, because you've seen me chop garlic many times. You didn't need to see me do that again. And I've got about 6 of these little scallions, because these guys were tiny. They are so little, so I'm using about 6 of them. But if your scallions are a little bit larger, you know, 3 or 4, whatever, however much oniony flavor you like. The predominant flavor in this, of course, is supposed to be the chicken. And we're just going to kind of put that to the side. And while that chicken is going, I'm going to start the squash. So I've got another skillet here. I'm going to preheat it, medium-high heat. And I'm just going to kind of let that chicken go. Of course, you know, Chinese restaurants have these huge woks that they cook out of, and I don't have that, and I guarantee you don't have that at home in your kitchen. So we're just going to use our regular skillet here. But I'm going to turn my heat all the way up to high now that I have the chicken in there. I didn't at first because it'll splatter all over you, and that's not good. So let's do our, well, wait a minute. Let me do one more thing real quick before I do our squash. I've got my ginger here, and I learned a neat little trick. I've always peeled my ginger with a knife, but if you will take a spoon and just go along the edge of your ginger, look at that. It just takes that peel right off there, and you waste very, very little of your flesh. And ginger is so very good in so many dishes. I use a lot of fresh ginger. And you may go to the store and you may think, ooh, that's a little pricey, because it's like, you know, $3 or $4 a pound or something like that. That little nub of ginger probably costs 20 cents at the grocery store. So when you really break it down, it's truly not all that expensive, because you can break off as much on the hand. It's called a hand of ginger. When you go to the store, maybe you don't need that much, and that's what I did this morning. I just broke off the amount that I needed and bought what I need. So you just get what you need, and I'm going to grate that over my water chestnuts and my green onions here. And I want, you know, a couple of tablespoons of ginger. Such a pungent little spice, but so very good. You cannot substitute dried ginger in this recipe. This is not one of those times you can use a dried thing. You've really, truly got to get the fresh ginger. And that's about good right there. Tap the bottom and get all the extra off. I wish you could smell that. If you have never used fresh ginger, you don't know what you're missing. So we've got that off to the side. So now let's get started on our squash. I bought 2 yellow squash and 2 zucchini. You can slice it any which way you want to. You can do it on a mandolin like I have here, and do it in the little thin little julienne pieces, which is what I'm going to do. You're supposed to use the guard. I have a hard time with the guard. So we're just going to watch our fingers. And let me show you what that does. See, that just gives you these beautiful little spaghetti-like strips of your squash. And so let's just put those in the bowl as we do them. But please do be careful, if you're not using the guard, that you watch your fingers, because this will absolutely slice your fingers off if you're not careful. You get down to the end, just kind of put it to the side. If you don't have one of these slicers, just slice it in little rounds, or little mini sticks will work. Whatever you know, however you want to do it. Not a job for children. I would never, ever, ever let my boys use one of these mandolins, because these blades, trust me, are very, very sharp, and they will cut you. So do not let your children use this particular gadget. Now, I'm all for teaching children how to use different things, but this is not one of those products that children should use. Some adults probably shouldn't use, including me. Sometimes Mike always kids me, my husband Mike. He'll say, honey, you're just going to cut your fingers off if you're not careful. And I think that's probably enough. And let's add a little bit of salt to that. Just starts drawing out the moisture. If you'll notice, I did not add any salt to our chicken because I used so much soy sauce that I didn't want to do that. Let's get that going. Let's get some peanut oil. Since we're using it, let's just get some peanut oil. A couple of tablespoons or so in the bottom of our skillet. And we're just going to kind of swirl that around here. And I'm going to add my squash to that. And I'm just going to briefly saute the squash up because I don't like it cooked to death. Some people, you know, really just get in there and just cook it till it's mushy, and I don't want to do that today. You know, since I've got some extra green onions, I think I'm going to add just a green onion. If you don't have one, don't worry about it. But I do have some extra, and I like the flavor, so let's just add a little bit of a green onion in there. Add that to our little squash dish there. Kind of stir it up. Just a brief cook is all you want. I'm going to take a quick break. When I come back, we're going to get this chicken wrapped up, and we're going to start on dessert. I'll be right back with you in just a minute. Let's add to our chicken has cooked through. I'm just going to add in the onions and the water chestnuts, the garlic and the ginger to our beautiful mixture here and saute that for just a minute. Oh, heat those water chestnuts through. That smells divine. I so wish that you could taste this food. Now, for dessert, can't wait for you to taste this. For dessert, I have got just some bananas that I peeled and I sliced in half and then again in quarters, and I just bought some egg roll wrappers. If you can find spring roll wrappers, it would be better with spring roll wrappers. And I'm just taking half a banana and I'm rolling it up in the, that was kind of skinny, so I'm going to cut some of that off. And I'm sealing in the egg roll wrapper, and I'm sealing the edge with just some plain old water. And I'm going to saute these bananas in some canola oil. Don't use your peanut oil in this. That would just not be good. Would flavor it up too very much. Our chicken is cooking away here. Let me get a little excess, because egg roll wrappers tend to be a little thicker than the spring roll. So let's get our wrappers in there, and I think my oil's hot. Let me drop just a little teeny piece in there to see. Oh yeah. All right, let's add our bananas, and all we're doing is just browning up the egg roll wrapper on here. And I know this sounds weird. Trust me, I know. But this was, when I tasted the original version of this recipe, my words were, this is heaven on a plate. So I just kind of adapted it to myself. Now, the original recipe that I tasted had coconut ice cream, but I couldn't find any coconut ice cream, so I'm using vanilla, and then we're going to sprinkle some coconut over it. It's going to be good. So this is our sauce that we made in the beginning. We're going to add that back into our chicken dish. Use a lot of pans, a lot of bowls in this dish, but it's okay. And then, you know what? This is done. Let's just turn the heat off and just let the residual heat kind of build there. I'll show you how you eat this in just a few minutes. Now, let's check on our wonderful little banana. Let me see if I got some smaller tongs. Yeah, there's my little ones. Let's turn them over, because remember, these are just little crispy little wonton skins that really don't take that long, and all you're doing is browning them up just like that. That's all you want to do. And let's get our plate ready for our dessert. While that other side is finishing, I'll do the rest of these later. Let me show you what we want to do. I bought just a jar of caramel sauce that you buy in where you buy ice cream. You know what I'm talking about? And I just had them heat it for just a few seconds in the microwave. We want to just drizzle over some caramel sauce on our plate. Be easier if I had it in a squeeze bottle, but I don't. So we'll just do it this way. Oh, this just smells, and I love caramel. I could eat that jar. Then take some vanilla ice cream, because like I said again, I could not find the coconut, so I'm just going to do some vanilla. Some little scoops of vanilla ice cream on your plate. Again, heaven on earth, I'm telling you, this is scrumptious. Coconut, which is one of my favorite ingredients ever, and just sprinkle some coconut over that. Add just a little drizzle more of the caramel sauce over your wonderful little ice cream there. Then, let's check our, yeah, they're good. Take these warm, hot, be careful with this, please, be careful with these. And cut them in little bite-sized pieces. They're hot, please be careful. And just set those around your ice cream and caramel. And oh, my stomach is a happy, happy, happy little camper right now. That is truly heaven on a plate. There you go. That's your dessert. Now we've got our wonderful little, let me get the rest of these out before they burn. Because I promise you, these camera people and the directors are licking their chops. I get a lot of people that ask me, that say, do you eat all that food? I'm like, no, I do eat my fair share of it, trust me, but I got a whole team of people that just can't wait for this program to be over so we can eat. Now, I'm going to add just some toasted sesame seeds in my chicken. Stir that up, and look at that. Is that not delicious? And we're going to put that on a plate. Let me grab a spoon. I can find one. And I have just a head of iceberg lettuce that I have cut in half. And I've got a bed of the little chow mein noodles, you know, the little chow mein noodles that you buy in the grocery store. And we're just going to add this to it, over top of that. Oh, it smells so good. And then let me show you how you eat these. I'll be the taste tester. Tough job, but somebody's got to do it. Get a lettuce leaf, one of your lettuce leaves, turn it over. Oh, let me tell you about this. In the front here, you want to add, some, you know, if you, this is delicious on its own, but I've got some different condiments here if you want to add. This is sweet and sour sauce. This is spicy hot mustard, Chinese. That is just a sriracha type sauce. It's a chili garlic right here that's very, very hot, but very, very good. Take your lettuce leaf, put you just a little bit of this filling inside. If you want to add some of the sauce, I'll add just a touch of the sauce here. Let's get just a little bit. This is very hot, so I don't want to do much. And just put that in there and roll that up. And there you go. That is a lettuce wrap. We are out of time, and I am so glad because I am so... And I'll see you next time. Try these recipes. Fun for your kids. Wrap it in a lettuce leaf and let them eat it. Your children will love it. Try it next time on Everyday Man. everybody. We have a brand new Everyday Manna cookbook for you. It's Everyday Manna's Southern Style, 180 brand new recipes. All the things that you would find if you are fortunate enough to eat or live in the South. Southern style recipes from my kitchen to yours, easy to do, things that you can make any day of the week, like a peanut butter sheet cake, topped with homemade peanut butter dressing, potato soup, chicken and rice casserole, a sour cream coconut cake, all of the delicious recipes from my kitchen to yours. It can be yours today for your gift of $50 or more to Living Faith Television. Make sure that you write on your check, your money order, or put a note in there that you want the brand new recipe Southern style cookbooks. Just say Southern. We'll know what you mean. Thank you for supporting Christian television. We love and appreciate you so much.
I thank the Lord for Mike and Lisa Smith. I believe with all of my heart that they are being good stewards of this ministry, of this wonderful medium of television. Weekly, the gospel continues to go out over the tri-state area, over the mountains of eastern Kentucky, Virginia, West Virginia. Only God could have brought this ministry together. And I am so thankful that every week we have the privilege and the opportunity of bringing you the story, the greatest story that the world has ever heard. The story of the death, the burial, and the resurrection of our wonderful Lord, and there's no doubt about it. He's on His way. We need to lift up our heads. Our redemption is drawing nigh. But until then, we've got to use every venue and every avenue